Hello, good evening, everyone. Hopefully you can all hear us.
Hi.
Hey there.
Welcome all to the information session for this next year of the Next Gen Showcase. Just as a heads up, if you have any questions tonight, we will be answering all questions towards the end of the session in our Q&A portion. So whether you're in LinkedIn or YouTube, just make sure, throw in your questions and we'll make sure to get to them. Well, I guess we'll get started then. So, what is the Next Gen Showcase and what do we stand for? This Next Gen Showcase is an opportunity for aspiring themed entertainment professionals to showcase their talents and abilities by simulating a working studio environment where participants will create an attraction in response to a client brief. We'll go into more detail about all of that in just a moment. But before we do that,
this is our team. Laura is our project director, is our design coordinator, Lars is project coordinator, I run the marketing, and Ryan Sand does technical.
Cool. Now I get to give you all the details. Okay, so I have the most experience with this. I ran this program once in 2018. It kind of has evolved organically. And then Lars, Katie, Ryan. Wow, they got a bunch of people interested. And I was happy to join this last time where we had 120 signups. We ended up with 65 people doing the program. So we had 5 teams, 12 people on a team, which seemed to work pretty well. And the part that's different from any competition is you get 2 full-time mentors. So those mentors are meant for weekly check-ins on your progress, for ongoing Q&A, whatever support you might need. We also try to balance it so that one person is focused on the creative development of your assignment, while the other is more project management. So, and that kind of starts at a very high level for you. But let's go to the next slide, Lars. So just to give you a better idea of how the program is structured, okay? We all know that, on-the-job training is kind of the best opportunity to learn things, but it can be a little kind of off-putting. You're always concerned whether you're asking a good question or not. If it's okay to ask somebody something, if it's not okay to have an opinion. This is the kind of environment that there's no stupid questions, and we'd much rather you ask questions. And if you need a little nudge in different directions, this is the place for it. So what we have done is we set up so that each of the teams is actually its own creative agency. And you'll have an opportunity to name your agency, as well as identify what those leading roles are and how the team is structured, how it operates, how it communicates with itself. So each team, like I said, has the 2 mentors. Now, our management group is like the client reps. So we work with the client team, and we will represent the fictional theme park that you'll have a brief to develop the project from. So starting from right there, we separate ourselves from any kind of competition. The teams are not actually in competition. You're just trying to continue to improve on each phase of your design development. What's interesting, though, in the end is you've all received the same brief, but you will very likely come out with very different answers. So which is part of what creativity is about. So we have a client team that this past year, does the next slide have the clients? 2 more, sorry. The last year, the client panel, and we're going to strive for something similar, was representative of 4 very popular parks in Europe and 2 heads of their other park creative teams. So we're already more than halfway on our list for this coming year. But what we're trying to do is we have an idea for the brief, which we're not going to tell you. And that idea will guide kind of who our client panel is. Sorry, back to the org chart, please. So then we've got, then we're that client panel's rep. So when you get the brief and you've gone through all that documentation and you have your first round of questions that you're going to do requests for information with, And those RFIs go on throughout the project like it would any project. So this way you get used to kind of the dynamics of delivering in a process, and all the different aspects, all the paperwork, kind of all those standard operating procedures. You get all the jargon down. Part of what created this project was the understanding that a lot of the college programs that are out there, while great, they're teaching you philosophy. They're not actually teaching you practical implementation. You don't get that until you get a job. So what we're trying to do for you is kind of shortcut that process a bit so that when you do sit down in a job interview, you have the right vocabulary. You understand what you're talking about from all the different design phases. You know what your role is, how it works with all the other roles in the team. And then I'm always want to tell you that if it comes to passing an assignment, you give the information your teacher wants, but if you're going to be working, then this is the right way to go. So anyway, what we've got too is there's a lot of support in this program. So like M will meet quite regularly with all the creative directors, and Matt here, Lars will go with all of the project managers. And, Katie, while managing all the marketing bits, could very well support any of the teams and how they want to evolve their branding, answer a lot of the park IP questions. And Ryan Sam supports all the technical directors. And he's particularly good to convey interest. So if as a participant you have a key interest in lighting design, then he would be coming back to the team saying, hey, we need to throw together a workshop that, introduces this group of people to this topic. Do we want to do it for everybody? So we're able to kind of support your needs as we go to. Next slide. So this past year, we said we have, we kept it in Europe just for ease. And because we were also trying to get to understand how to manage so many people. And the 1 year time difference was actually beneficial because it gave you one more component, a variable that you had to learn to work around. Not the least of which, with 11 countries represented, there was about 6 different languages. And communication is key in every industry globally, because if your communication's bad, your product's bad. So we want to help you become more respectful of each other, respectful of people who have made the effort to speak English. If you're an English speaker, I'm grateful on a daily basis because I work all over Europe and Asia, the Middle East and such, and have always had the good fortune to have people speak English to me because that's what this industry, that's the core language. The challenge for me, though, has always been to be certain that the person speaking really good English to me really means what they mean or has really fully understood my question. So even when I think I've heard something, I always make the effort to double check. And even if you're speaking the same language, you can be speaking different purposes. So that's one of the big kind of practicing components that we're going to do. And you'll have an opportunity to say kind of what teams you want to be on and how you want to mix. This next year, so the next slide, we lost track of the original artwork. So what we have done is we've moved from Europe to the whole world. So at this point, if you know people in Asia or Australia you think would be interested in this, please let them know, or Africa, South America, Canada, the US, etc. Everybody's welcome. We've tried to make this as accessible as possible on a lot of fronts. One, it's fully virtual. There are going to be some events, but for the most part, everybody has access. So long as you read or write or have use of a translator, you can communicate with each other. What is important to know is that the program is based in Central Europe time. So that does mean that if you're in the US, it's going to be earlier in your day. And if you're to the east, it's going to be much later in your day. So the good thing is all of our information sessions get recorded. So if you can't make it live, you still have the benefit to watch it again. And if you enjoyed it, but you didn't get all the information, you can always watch it again. So we just want to make sure everybody has as many options as possible. Next slide. Right, so last year's brief was a fictional theme park called Parktopia in Vienna, Austria. And the team is given a kind of like a client wish list of what they want to achieve. It gives, then it's partnered with a feasibility study. So the feasibility study gives a clear indication of who are our guests, how long do they stay, what's our ticket price, what's our seasons like. Each group will have to do research on the geographic area. As well, the culture will always be important. And taking the client, you're trying to satisfy what the client wants, but at the same time, if you're questioning what the client wants, it's always good to tactfully ask questions to get more information, to see what latitude you can get with that, because clients don't always know everything. That's why they're coming to the experts, the people who do. They still may insist that it has to be a double-decker carousel in the entry, okay? But you can still help them theme that accordingly. The feasibility study is really helpful. You'll also get a geographic plan of the area to be developed. So that's the tab to the left. We try not to make it too complicated, so you don't have to worry about working around sinkholes or historical ruins or anything like that. It'll be reasonably straightforward, but it's always good when you can kind of comment that you've looked at the direction water flows or whatever. Certainly weather is a significant consideration. And as part of the brief, there'll also be components so that if you want to do an attraction, great, but maybe there's other people on the team who are interested in the retail theming or food and beverage. So you'll be able to build out those components as part of your deliverable as well. So, but I think the best part about this program is just the ongoing support of the education sessions that'll happen every Monday. They pair with a topic that you need to know about in that phase of design, and the ongoing interaction with your mentors, because all of them are well-experienced people who can tell a good war story. And interestingly enough, war stories are usually just your run-of-the-mill day-to-day experience in theme parks. There's a reason we say, welcome to entertainment. Okay, so what was the next slide? Up next. Okay, the project outline. We try to get through 3 design phases in a traditional manner. And what I mean by that is more and more we're seeing clients wanting to compress that timeline. So Blue Sky could take a week normally. We haven't decided exactly how long it takes, primarily because we want you all to get to know each other and establish the teams and how you're going to operate and what's your agency and what's your focus. So we'll give a couple of weeks for that, and we'll do some kind of team building, get to know you, especially across the whole program instead of just in your teams. Because really, for a lot of you, this is your first group of your generation of networking. And then you introduce each other to all these other great people, and your career is off. The Blue Sky is where you're going to take the brief. You're going to give the first couple of examples. So you'll be asked to deliver 3 concepts maybe. And then it gets reviewed, and your client team, which is that board of directors, will review, select one of your choices and give you notes, and then you'll start your concept design phase. This year, we're wanting to get to about 50% concept before we get to IAPA Europe. That's going to be in Vienna this year, because we will have an opportunity for you to show your work, to industry professionals and whoever else happens to be present, but always people have really good questions. And we've all visited theme parks and we all experience different aspects of them. So it's usually good to hear many voices. But we want to make sure you have something completed by that point, that it's a really useful experience for all of you. Then moving into schematic, that's when you start detailing your concept. And when we talked about detail design, that's going to be more maybe a specific component. So maybe the ride vehicle would be quite detailed, or a particular scenic element, so that you understand how detailed those drawings are and the material callouts, the texture, the colors, something that you can really see in your mind, and all the paperwork that comes with that. Because I can promise you there's lots of paperwork in this industry. Okay, so next slide. Okay, here's where I get to be the good and bad guy. Part of why this program is so long is because it really needs to run alongside any work you might be doing or any educational programs you're taking. If you are in a degree program, get the degree done. Okay, no other time in your life is it going to be easier to do. If you have to go back, it's always going to cost you more. So always get it done. I'll always recommend that. And I want you to understand too that a degree is like the very first point of entry if you want to work globally, because the only way your employer can get you a work visa is at minimum a higher education degree. Okay, so always get that part. So the 10 months drafts out these processes so that you've got the time to give everything the attention that it needs. But I'm going to be honest, based on your role, based on the commitments you make to the team and what the team is trying to achieve, expect somewhere between 6 and 8 hours a week. Could be less, could be more. Of course, it's going to vary. It's like any deadline you get. When you're closer to the deadline, it's going to be more hours. When you're further away, it's less hours. It's another point of important communication within the team, so that you don't overpromise. Okay, so that everybody on the team understands what needs to be delivered, when it needs to be delivered. Can you really achieve it? So that's why we have this lovely saying, that's under promise and over deliver, because that's always more impressive, frankly. You know, it's great that you try to achieve more. That shows a great enthusiasm. But if you can't deliver it, or worse, you hurt yourself because of it, none of us wants that. What's nice about this program too is because it requires such a commitment and a responsibility to each other on the teams, is that you're the type of people want to hire. So the first round I did with only 12 people, all 12 of them got hired by the end of the program. It wasn't the program that did it. It was that they were the type of people that took on that commitment. And then they learned everything they needed to learn. And then boom, they went into work. So that's kind of what our goal is, actually, is to make sure that we're giving you that springboard, but we can't give you anything. You have to do the work. So we're here to support you. We're here to help. And I think that's a good transition into the next part as far as what we plan to support you with.
Exactly. So you might be sitting here thinking, there's a lot of things that I don't know about the industry yet. How are we, as the Next Gen Showcase, going to support you guys to help, develop your briefs and get the best packages for your progression? So as Laura already mentioned, apologies. As Laura already mentioned, each team has 2 mentors. Typically, this is one creative and one more business tech side, and that will assist you throughout the program, really helping answer any questions you might have and kind of giving an insight to the whole experience. Every week, we also have education sessions. In these education sessions, we have a host of speakers that kind of go into a topic that is relevant to the phase that we're in, whether that be blue sky or concept, and kind of discuss that and kind of one-to-one, well, with you guys, kind of are able to answer any questions you might have about that. Another thing that Laura mentioned was the in-person events. So we kind of have two types of in-person events. One which is more about learning and kind of similar to the education sessions, is really going to the parks, suppliers, events to kind of get a behind-the-scenes look on how they're operated and how they kind of pull that all together. This is hopefully gives you an extra real-life basis to link it back to your brief, link it back to your work. The other opportunity is the presentation aspect, where you might be going to IAPA, or as the participants did last year, they went to Europa Park and presented to industry professionals, people who run those parks, and kind of get feedback that helps improve their project along the way. Also, we have an online community, which kind of helps bring everyone together. This allows for resources, job listings. The recording of those education sessions gets shared here. A bit of everything, our announcements, communication within your team and within others in the program. So that if you have a question as a technical director that you might not know, you could throw it into here saying, hey, does anyone know any of this lighting? And they can help you out with that in this online community. A couple of things coming soon to our website, our resources page, which add extra resources that you can refer back to during the program to help expand your knowledge and expand the way you look at your brief. And also directory page, which should hopefully link you closer to the industry professionals during your work and after your work. Just a quick example of all the companies we've worked with for in-person events, education sessions, mentoring and such. Everyone from the industry is really supportive and it's really helping us make this program run.
So how do you take part being the next big section? Last one. Okay, so you have to be over the age of 18. There is no upward age limit. There's no restriction. Next Gen isn't just limited to young people. It's anyone who wants to break into the industry, whether you're switching careers or you are just fresh out of university. As long as you're over the age of 18, you can participate, as well as having obviously a passion for themed entertainment and the hope to break into the industry. So for the role selection, we have a list on our website that breaks down all the different roles you could possibly have. This helps us assign you in teams, and even when you are submitting your cover letter, we will ask you for 3 different options of the roles you would like to have. But we really suggest that you read through this list quite thoroughly and think about what you'd like, but it will kind of be split almost into technical and creative. So it's really good just to really thoroughly read through that list, and that will help you decide where you think you should fit in a team, so then we can place you in a team according to your skills and interests. Now for the CV and the resume. So current and past education and any experiences you have doesn't have to necessarily be themed entertainment. We're not expecting everyone to have industry experience already, but if you have any, please list that, or any interested in themed entertainment, and the hard skills such as software, artistic skills and management, and any volunteering you've done. So just as you would a normal CV, so we know not everyone will have all the experience yet, but it's more so we can get a general idea of maybe what you study, what your experiences are, what sort of software you use, things like that. It's really good to know where to place you in a team. And the cover letter, so we like you to keep it to 1 page if possible, because we have a lot of cover letters to read through. But it tells why you want to participate in the showcase, your career so far, whether that's just within education, and then a bit about yourself as well. Like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Also good to maybe hear a little bit about your passion for themed entertainment and maybe where that came from. And yeah, sort of the 5 years part will really sort of show us when it comes to sorting you into teams and what roles you have as far as where you fit in. And here are some examples of work that you could add. So we know, again, not everyone will have work already, and that's fine. But if you do, and if you're looking especially for one of the artistic roles, it's really great to include maybe 3 to 5 pieces of art or your work in general, just to illustrate your skills, your skill level, or even your art style. So yeah, sketches, spreadsheets, CAD drawings, models, so on. Graphic design, anything that you feel is relevant to the role you would like to take in the team.
Awesome, thank you, Katie. So the next thing is the key dates. So firstly, the deadline for cover letter, CV, role selection, and examples of work should be in by June 7th. Then the next part is the teams will be announced on the 12th of June. And as mentioned at the beginning, you will have a little time to meet one another in your team and really bond a little bit before we throw you into the deep end and give you the brief. The agreement docs will be sent upon completion of the team selection, and these are both to protect you as participants, as well as the amazing ideas that you'll create over the course of the program. But we can dive deeper into those at a later time. But some examples are disclosure and confidentiality and a code of conduct. Cool. And please do keep an eye out on our social media for updates. Katie?
Yeah, our main ones are LinkedIn and Instagram. LinkedIn is more of the professional platform that we all use, but Instagram will tend to throw things up on our Instagram story, like maybe reminders about our Monday talks, maybe who is doing the talk or what topic it is. So, that one's good for sort of, pushing out quick updates, as well as if you're participating, you'll see all these things on the Discord as well. But for now, if you want to keep up to date with where the project is and where we are as a team, make sure you follow us on those platforms.
So I want to invite anyone to ask questions from the chat. We can see all the different platforms you guys are on, so we'll be keeping an eye on those. A frequently asked question is, I'm not a student, can I still be part of the Next Gen Showcase? Lars, do you want to answer that one for us?
Absolutely. So if you're not a student and you are considering, for example, making that transition over to themed entertainment, absolutely, we'll take you on with open arms, as long as you're over 18 and more than welcome to join. We've had several participants over the past year who were also in that situation and were able to really take advantage of the program.
Awesome. It looks like we've got a few questions coming in. Luke Webb asks, how many people have shown interest in this year's program?
So based off of the early signups that we did before the signups before the application period opened, we just had just around 100 early interest signups for that part. Just so you know, there's a limit of 60 people for the program, so the limit is 60, and
yeah, and I believe
we won't be going over.
I did want to point out, you guys keep saying over 18. I want to say it's 18 and up.
Yeah.
So we're just those who are adults and responsible and education, etc. So 18 and over is who we're looking for. Go ahead, Ryan.
Thank you for clarifying that, Laura. Kuhn asks, will the meetings on Monday be the same-ish start time as this stream?
Yes, they will.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Halle, apologies if I get names wrong. I'm English and terrible at pronunciation. I am so sorry. asks, will the in-person events only be in Europe, or will there be some all over the world?
We aspire to all over the world, don't we, Lars?
We do. So in-person events are very much based off where we get participants from, just to kind of help centralize some of the events. So depending on where everyone is from and such, we hope to kind of cater events to that.
We also leverage off of events put out by IAPA and TEA. So the IAPA expos, whether that is in Orlando or in Europe, and even Asia Pacific coming up, I'll be attending. We try to schedule something so that people can meet each other, because we know how important that is. And it just adds a complete new dimension to the program. We had that experience where we had 60 people participating last time, and 40 plus came to an event we had at the Efteling. So that did involve not just the Dutch. We had English, French, German, etc. show up for that, and really it just took off after that, especially about how they could help each other between teams and cross some skill sets, etc. So it worked out really well.
Awesome, thank you. A very quick one, I will throw this to Katie. Does it cost money to participate?
It does not. It is a free program because we want to be as accessible to everyone. So yeah, totally free program. Obviously, events will cost money to attend. You'll have to pay for your own travel and hotel costs. And, even with IAPA, you have to try and get your own tickets for IAPA or a SATE. But we do our best to try and, get good deals for people and, potentially some park trips in there if we can get that subsidized. But expect to have to pay your own way for trips. But everything else, as far as education, it's all free.
Definitely. And to elaborate on that, I know previous participants have often grouped together in hotel rooms or in Airbnbs, traveled together to help keep those costs low. And of course, feel free to do that this time. The next question I've got is from Sergio. Hi, everyone. Thanks for the information. I have already sent the application for the next gen on the online page. So should they do it again? Because some of the things that should be included, such as the cover letter, are not in theirs. Lars, could you speak to that?
I believe for this one, so we've already received your submission, of course, but I've had a look through it and the information is in there. But if you feel most comfortable, if you'd like to resubmit, you are more than welcome to still
problem.
do that. Yeah.
You can also send us an email if you feel like it's just easier just to add that information into an email.
That as well, yes.
Good idea. Max asks, how long will the meetings on Monday be?
They vary significantly. It depends on the topic. Typically, it's an hour minimum. A lot of times, even if the speaker finishes, we may have things to discuss, especially if events are coming up or particular topics are brought up in the discussion. But yeah, 90 minutes is usually what we shoot for.
Okay. So plenty of time for Q&A.
Yeah. And you're always welcome to leave if you need to leave. That's not a problem. And then you can watch it back because, like I said, we record all the sessions.
Thank you, everyone, for all the kind comments. And we're keeping questions going. So I do see you, and we do thank you for that. But keeping us on track, Luke asks, if you have some experience working within the industry, would that hamper any chance of being selected?
No, it depends. But for me, it would depend on your role, but we can always chat. But it would be very, I think it should be fine, ultimately.
Yeah.
Nice. Rayan asks, which roles are most asked for?
It varies.
It varies. But I would say that the most popular ones are the creative directors and art directors. Each team, so there's only 5 creative director roles up for grab, 5 project manager roles up for grabs. And we have, more than 5 people submit that they would like to be a creative director, etc. So like we said earlier, it's no guarantee you will get the role. It's just, but that's why we try and give you guys 3 choices to kind of, so,
And again, the 3 choices, especially if you're not familiar or you're concerned whether you would qualify for them or anything like that, while you're kind of submitting for a role in a company to deal with the agency framework, you're aspiring to that. So if your interests are that you're highly organizing, you understand creative, you're really good at communication, things like that, then pick the roles that sound right. And then just tell us, I don't know what I want to do, but I know I'd rather it be creative. Then great, you're in a design team or you're in a technical team if you've told us that. So that really the more information you can give us about your interests and what you're passionate about, the better we can place you in a team.
Cool. Georgia asks, will there be any chance to meet alumni of the program? Yes, there are. I would strongly recommend reaching out to those who on LinkedIn, for example, have said that they've attended the program previously, ask them questions, ask them what it was really like. Were we evil? Were we bad? What were some of the challenges they faced? What went really well? Yeah, we'd strongly recommend reaching out to those people. Then Max asks, are the in-person events in the weekends? And are those planned and communicated in advance? Lars?
Oftentimes these events are scheduled depending on the best for example, if it's for a theme park, it's what the theme park can best accommodate us for. So if they say, we can only do it on such a day, such as a Tuesday, we may be restricted to only doing it on the Tuesday. Or for example, events such as IAPA or TA SATE, those are very much restricted by those dates that they've already set. I believe Thursdays and such. It really varies event by event, and we try and give a month plus notice for these events so that people can plan accordingly. I believe the longest we gave people was about 4 or 5 months, might be a month, but we try and at least give a month so that people can organize that travel and hotels for the event.
Awesome. Alfie asks, this is going to be another you one, Lars. They'll be starting university in September to study architecture. They are passionate about the industry and are currently lacking experience. Would you suggest applying now or waiting in the future for the next revision of the showcase?
First of all, good luck. I just completed architecture. You'll have a lot of fun. But second of all, what we're currently looking for more so than experience is that passion. We are kind of helping provide some of that experience. But if you feel as if you'd be more prepared in upcoming years, I'd say wait, but it's a personal decision. It's very much you can take it now or you can take it in 3 years, but I guess there's also no guarantee.
I think one of the important things too is that you learn best if you have a project to work on, because it gives you something to focus on and to learn the skills that associate to answer to solve. So I would encourage you. I think it could only help, really. And then it never hurts to get it started and then see what you need to do after. But always, if you get yourself involved and you need to step back a little bit, you're expected to communicate with your colleagues about that and not have them hanging or chasing you. So, we're all grown-ups here. Is basically it. But it's always good to have a focus and to have something to be working toward.
Cool.
Absolutely.
A quick one from Stefan. Will the live stream stay online as a VOD to rewatch? I believe,
Yes.
Cool. Cycling back, we'll go to Rayanne's. Can I take part in more than one showcase?
So the participants last year, for example, they're alumni, they've completed the program and they won't be able to partake in the next upcoming year. And the same will apply for people who partake in this year's program. They won't be able to partake in future programs. This is just so that we can allow as many people as we can to take part and kind of gain that experience through the program.
And I have a more cynical rationale. There's an awful lot of free labor you're going to put into this that you get a learning experience from. So then that's a good use of your time. But after you've done this once and you've gotten your degree, go get a real job. That's what you should be doing, not continuing to cycle through something that's safe. Okay? So you'll hear that kind of logic out of me very often.
Cool. Aidan asks, thank you so much for the information session. How would our portfolios be evaluated if they are more technical or part of other creative industries? As someone who comes from a technical background, which is tangential to themed entertainment, that strikes a chord. For me, I would say, yeah, absolutely submit it. Give us things like, for me, it would be lighting designs. So I would submit lighting designs and whatever would best show that skill and that passion, because there are a lot of transferable skills. Laura, Lars, Katie, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're correct. When it comes down to transferable skills, you can very much just get a feel for someone's. I mean, if it's not themed entertainment art, if it's art in general, you can get a feel for that from a few pieces of art. So it's all transferable. Like, we will be able to sort of get what we need from seeing your work, even if it's not exactly like related to the industry.
And don't worry about the evaluation being if you will be permitted into the program or not. That'll be more based off of cover letter and CV. What we're trying to do by also having this extra work is kind of balance the teams with people who have more experience of specific programs, etc., to kind of help balance them out, rather than saying, unlike, for example, a college degree where we're like, we don't like the work, you're not accepted to the program. It's very much more trying to balance the teams more so.
I think this is something we realized after this last session, was that people said they did things, but then the skill sets ended up very different. So instead of having teams that were all capable to deliver a certain level, we had some shortfalls, and then we had people that were really, really accomplished when we could have evened that out better if we understood. So that's what this is really being used for.
Cool. To expand on that, Halle asks, what are some of the things that we look for when choosing participants?
Your ability to follow directions. That's why the cover letter is a thing and the CV is a thing, because these are the first things that you will use to get yourself work. So I tend to express what my frustrations are. I hire regularly. And quite literally, I've rejected people. I didn't even bother to start reading your stuff, because that person's stuff, because they couldn't be bothered to spell check, to put it in the right format, to spell my name correctly. Why should I bother? You didn't, and you're the one who needs something. So I tried to give these practical tips along the way, and the very first hurdle is, can you follow these directions? Because otherwise it'll be a challenge from the beginning, and we have 59 other people who will need our attention. So that's where that comes from.
Certainly, and definitely the drive and want to be in the themed entertainment industry. It's going to be a long 10 months, and you've got to be prepared for that. So showing that drive is definitely something we look for.
Yeah, the passion will shine through.
Absolutely. Kuhn asks, how did participants from previous years with the job feel about the amount of work for this program? I would say definitely just reach out to them. They're the ones that can tell you best. I know with proper communication, people really manage to excel and manage that expectation of their teams. If anyone wants to talk more about that.
Communication. It's almost too simple of an answer, but it is truly the answer. The teams where people have full-time jobs and communicated what they were capable of doing with the rest of their team and the project manager, they were really able to excel and kind of allocate work in the most efficient way possible, and still deliver a product at the end that they were proud of.
Yes. I'm so sorry. I do not know how to pronounce this name. Mikhail? I'm very sorry if I got that wrong. Is the role allocation sheet already available on the website to have a look at, or will it be posted up there in due time?
It's already available. So if you go to the Apply Now page, if you're on the desktop, it should be on the left-hand side. If you click on Roles and Responsibilities, it will take you to a PDF. And in that PDF, it outlines, has a description of each of the roles we have listed in the submission form.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lars. Rayanne asks, should I mention the people that have been through the program that they've talked to?
If you like.
Yeah, it's definitely not necessary, but if you would like to add that in, feel free to.
Definitely.
Glenn is the next question, and can you partake again with the program if you had to take a step back last year? Yes, Glenn, I'd be happy to see you again, so please do apply.
And our last question, feel free to add any more and we will continue to read them out. But the last one so far is, would you recommend taking part in the program on the last year of your studies? They've still got 2 to go. Would it be wiser to wait for the next?
I don't think there's a best time. I think it's, again, up to you individually. I know at least for some people, last year is very much the year that they want to choose and decide to focus on the studies more than extracurricular activities. So if it was me personally, I would choose to do it this year and then focus on my studies in my final year, because I know that often has the largest impact upon grades exiting the degree. But it's very much a personal decision, whatever feels right at the time, more so than anything else.
And you got the experience of doing both, so you can speak from that experience. It was painful for you.
Yeah.
So, I think for me, and one of the things that the participants always talk about is all of the additional skills they didn't realize they were going to get. So I think for me, the number one thing is just confidence. You understand the process. You understand what's expected of you. You understand how to work in a team. You learn to negotiate. You learn to present yourself. You learn how to deal with people who aren't pulling their weight, with people who are doing too much. You learn about your own limits and how to stay healthy at work. So all these are really good things, and they have more to do than just the attraction you might be designing. Go ahead, Ransom.
Awesome. Aidan asks, what would be the best way to submit larger projects? Would files outlining larger projects with links be acceptable?
I at least know during our phase of kind of picking the teams and allocating the teams, we just want a kind of rough indication of your skill level, and we won't, we'll put more time in, I guess, evaluating the cover letter and CV, whereas the work and the examples of work will be more so to help us, guide us. Yeah. So don't feel as if you need to show us the entirety of the project, but more so maybe the pieces from the project that best showcase a software or a skill.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the frequently asked questions we've got asked, what are some of the wider range of media that we could submit? For example, scripts, examples of music, as you say, CAD models, lighting designs. Feel free, my friends, to add any more suggestions into that. There are so many different types and ways of expressing yourself that we are more than happy to view.
Scheduling and budget scheduling sheets, budgets, how you coordinate work. So if you want to be a project manager, I need to know that you know how to use a spreadsheet, because it'll also help us to tell, based on kind of the overall skill sets, that helps us too with structuring different speakers and getting them to focus their presentations on certain details. And if we want to have additional workshops, then that might only have a handful of people in it, but those people are quite keen on a particular topic. So we can always see what we can do.
Cool. Zhao asks, they'll be away for 1 month between July and August. Therefore, they won't be present during the initial phase. Would that be a problem? And would they still be able to apply?
I'd ask him how much of July and August. Is it like the last 2 weeks of July and the first 2 weeks of August? Because then you've got enough time to kind of get to know the team and give some insight before you leave. But then when you come back, whatever's been decided while you were gone, you have to then support. So, you know, if you're absent, nobody can read your mind. So if you so you give your input, and then while you're gone, you try to stay in touch if you can, just to know what the conversation is. And then when you get back, just work in with everybody from there. That's possible.
And it's very much also dependent potentially on role. So potentially if you're a techie, you might have more commitment in the schematic phase over the blue sky concept phase. If you're potentially in a more operational role, such as project manager, that's very much a role that encompasses the whole program. But as long as you can communicate with the team, find someone else who can take over those responsibilities, it should be feasible, like Laura said.
That is a good point, though, because a lot of the technical roles, while they're important, and I'm a big advocate to get operations and technical involved in the design process kind of earlier on. At the end of the day, you'll be involved in a process during this program that you will never see again. and I like that you'll be able to see it, so because you'll spend most of your life in technical going, what were they thinking? Well, now you'll know. So that you understand what that process of blue sky and charrettes and all of that you're never invited to is all about, and you may appreciate why. So, but yeah, so this way it gives everybody a chance to be involved. But if you are technical, then it'll be a lot less hours at the beginning.
Mikhail asks, how do we go about narrowing down the list of applicants? Are we able to speak about that? And we've mentioned our emphasis on being able to follow direction and definitely having the passion for the industry. Are there anything else that potential applicants should consider in their application?
I think it's as long as you don't rush it and hand us almost the first draft. I think as long as
you're thoughtful
in the application, I guess there's not much else that you can do. Like we said before, we won't be saying, oh, one person has 5 years experience in the industry, one has 1. We won't be picking based on those kind of elements. It would be very much based on, like said earlier, passion and such that will help us make those decisions. So yeah.
There's also a variety of considerations that we have along the way too. So if it's something where we have 63 people, then we're going to put 3 extra people in. If we have 12 extra people, then we might have 6 teams. So we're just saying, give us reason to go outside. Okay, because there's no rule that I haven't been able to figure out how to get around yet. So so give us a reason to go over the line. Okay, so as long as you're thoughtful, considered, committed, then we will be too. So that's really all I can offer there.
Wonderful. Andy asks, they know the question was answered already, but they had audio issues. We're sorry about that. Yeah, YouTube is horrible for live streaming, but we wanted to share it to everyone to make it as accessible as possible. That said, they've already applied a couple of weeks ago. Should they reapply to add their CV, etc.? I believe the answer was yes, feel free to. Feel free to email if that's easier, with your CV, cover letter, etc., all attached. But if you prefer, sorry, Lars.
No, I just want to add, I think this is in reference to the sign-up period we had before May 4th. If you signed up in the sign-up period before May 4th, that was just for your interest. So we ask now that you submit all of these documentation through the website so that we can kind of have it in one combined place.
Right.
If there's anything you want to add to your application that you feel like after seeing this, you want to add more, then yeah, email is great because then we don't have extra applicants coming in that are doubled up. So email is really good if you want to just add in a couple of things that you feel like after watching this live stream, you feel like you might have missed out on your CV or your cover letter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Nicholas asks, they've got relevant projects and experiences that are that they've done during their studies that are under NDA. How do they still present their skills to us in the showcase?
That's kind of something you'd have to deal with on your CV anyway. All of everybody's best work is covered under an NDA. And really what you do is you go about describing the type of tasks that you've done. And you can say kind of what tier of a player it is. So if you want to say top tier, we're all going to think you mean Disney Universal. If you say regional park, then we know that it's a park in a country that probably has regional guests and won't see international visitors as much. So adjectives and descriptions go a long way.
But don't break any NDA to submit any documentation.
Yeah, don't do that. So
Yeah.
it's okay.
Do examples, Yoel asks, do examples need to be translated into English presentations/plans?
I'm assuming this is referring to the examples of work. Those examples of work are more a representation of the skills that you might list on your CV. So for example, one of the things you mentioned there was plans. So if there might be some text on an architectural plan, it's more evaluating the CAD skills more so than it is the literary or the graphic design. Graphic design is a similar one. What might be said is not too important as long as the graphic design skills are on full display.
So,
and we have some alumni visiting to say hello with Uniaret and Satria. So nice to see you guys here too.
Yes.
And yeah, bug them. If they're going to put their shingle out, bug them, see what they thought.
Yeah, we've definitely had a few questions of people wanting to hear from alumni. So Bunyurit, Satria, if you're happy to speak to that, please do. Feel free to communicate. You'll got this. To continue.
I think that was
just nice comments. Thank you all for saying them.
If there's any more questions, please pop in with them. As I said, there's nothing foolish, and you're trying to assess us as much as we will ultimately try to assess you. So you need to determine whether this course would be of value to you, and certainly if your time will be well spent. Okay, so with the CV, do we need to tailor it towards the role we would want to example my CV? Of course. Ryan, Sam, you can do this. You know I'm a slow reader. Go ahead.
Do you want me to read it? Luke asks, with the CV, do we need to tailor it towards the role that they want? For example, their CV currently says that they are the head greenkeeper of a golf course for 10 years. Would it be correct to make this about the end game and their experience leading up to that? For example, designing roller coasters and theme attractions in software. So would you tailor your CV for the role that you want in Showcase? I
would suggest that you do. I mean, obviously keep the greenskeeper below whatever you want us to emphasize. Like the objective would be the roller coaster, the theming software, etc. And if you have any experience at that, if you're and you've worked on programs or examples or whatever, then put that in there. I think the best thing about keeping the greenskeeper is that you have kept a job for 10 years. Any employer will want to know that. So I don't care what you're applying for. If it doesn't have anything to do with landscaping, doesn't matter. You've been able to work at a job for 10 years. That's important to have on your CV. Okay. Because it means you're committed.
And that's one of the reasons we ask for a cover letter as well. The cover letter is really,
Right.
you know, we don't expect everyone to have this experience. So it's
No.
very much an opportunity to say, like you say, well, in the future, in 5 years' time, as we ask, where do you hope to be? The cover letter is really that opportunity to do so, more so than the CV.
And to that end, if you are into landscaping and you've got 10 years of experience, heck yeah. we certainly had a landscape architect in this previous year. So any role within themed entertainment, feel free to bring those skills to bear. We'd love to see that and help you meet the contacts you want to meet and really go forth.
And just to add upon that, on the submission page, we have listed a selection of roles and we've given a description for a selection of roles. But we understand that, you know, you might be interested in something within themed entertainment. There's also an other section on that submission folder. So if you're interested in potentially something other like VR or augmented reality that I believe we didn't list, feel free to add that to the other section of the submission folder.
Right.
Awesome. Yuri asks, thank you so much for the session. We've answered a question about the cost of in-person events. Could we give a rough indication of the cost? So, for example, one of the larger events, Lars, could you give a rough breakdown? So
every in-person event from the previous year, I must emphasize, from the previous year, every single event has been free of charge to attend, and that includes the activities within the day. Often that is park entry, some kind of behind the scenes, and some kind of education session with a professional. That being said, that element of the event is free. So entry, all that is free, the core element. However, travel, accommodation, and food and beverage, those three things are at your own cost. So for example, at the Efteling event we had in January, the events of the day were free, but the costs to stay in Kaatsheuvel on Tilburg, that was put on the participant, or the meal we had at the end of the day, that was incurred by the participant themselves.
And for events like IAPA and SATE, we don't provide the tickets for the event. But the actual conference part.
Cool. Thank you. If you have any more questions, feel free to throw them in. Again, please feel free to bug Bunyarit and Satria. They're in here. Absolutely go ham at them. Feel free to fire them questions.
But also reach out to them on LinkedIn
Alan
as well. You can send proper long messages over there.
Yeah, on our LinkedIn page, we have a list of alumni who've added it to their profile. So you should be able to seek them out quite easily.
Yeah, and many wanted to be involved going around next if they could help in any way. So they'll be probably happy to hear and give you some feedback.
And I'm sure some of them will turn up at events as well through the year if they get a chance.
And they taught us a lot. So, you know, that's been really great. So you'll benefit from everything they taught us. So, okay, cool. Any other last minute questions? This is your last chance. Going. All right, terrific. Then, yeah, we'll look forward to seeing your submittals. Please do, if you need to send a question in, it's not a problem, and share with your friends. info@nextgenshowcase.com with any questions. Are there specific software licenses needed to participate in the work? No, because you're going to have all your own stuff. So we're not providing anything. And even when the team's organized, you'll have to decide what shared software, whether you're going to use a Google Drive or something similar, whether you use the Discord that we provide for you, or something else. So no, there's nothing particular. I would strongly encourage Microsoft Office and or things that are compatible if you're an Apple person.
That's one of the advantages, I think, of the program being free is that you are able to spend that money on other programs as well. Are able to explore. You're not restricted by the cost of the program to explore other other softwares and such outside of this.
And to that end, I believe we can provide a list of resources that we use and have been used. Feel free to ask the previous alum what they've used software-wise. Yeah.
Good. Sounds good. Okay, well, we'll look forward to seeing you all soon. Yeah. All right, cool.
Thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank you for coming. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye.